Once upon a time, in a small village, lived a poor but clever peasant. His family was so poor they didn't even own a single cow. The other villagers, who were quite wealthy, refused to lend him one. So, the little peasant and his wife came up with a brilliant plan. They asked a skilled carpenter to carve a calf out of wood, making it look so real that its head was bent, as if it were eating. The next day, as the village herdsman was driving the cattle to the pasture, the peasant's wife called out to him, "Look! My little calf is still in the stable. It can barely stand and needs to be carried." The herdsman, seeing the wooden calf, grumbled but picked it up and carried it to the meadow, setting it down in the tall grass. The wooden calf, of course, just stood there, eating without moving an inch. When it was time to return, the herdsman called out, "If you can stand there and eat your fill, you can surely walk home on your own 4 legs." But the wooden calf didn't move. The herdsman, growing impatient, gave it a whack with his stick, accidentally breaking off its head. Furious, the herdsman ran back to the village and told the little peasant what had happened. "You've broken my calf," the peasant cried. "Now you must pay me for it." They argued and argued, finally ending up before the village mayor. The mayor, siding with the herdsman, declared, "It's your own fault for putting a foolish wooden thing in the pasture." But the little peasant was not one to give up. He declared he would seek justice from the king himself. So, he took the hide of the dead calf and set off for the city. On his way, a terrible storm forced him to seek shelter. He found a mill and knocked on the door. The miller's wife let him in, giving him some bread and a spot on a bale of straw. Soon after, the miller's wife's secret guest, a parsa, arrived. He brought cakes, roast, meat, and wine. The panicked wife quickly hid the food, the cake, under the bed, the meat in the stove, the wine under the pillow, and the parson in a large cupboard. The miller came in, tired and hungry. Seeing the peasant on the straw, he asked his wife, "What's this fellow doing here?" "Oh," she said, "the poor man was caught in the storm, so I gave him a piece of bread and a place to rest." The miller agreed but asked for his own supper. The wife offered him only bread and cheese. As they ate, the peasant, still lying on the straw, suddenly squeezed the calf's hide and made it squeak. "What was that?" asked the miller. The peasant, with a straight face, replied, "Oh, it's just my little soothsayer. He's in this hide. What can he predict?" The miller asked, intrigued. "Well," said the peasant, squeezing the hide again, "first, he says there's wine under the pillow." "My goodness!" exclaimed the miller's wife. The miller, curious, looked under the pillow and found the wine. The peasant squeezed the hide once more. "He says there's roast meat in the stove." The miller rushed to the stove, found the meat, and was astonished. "One more time," he demanded. The peasant made the hide squeak a 3rd time. "He says there's cake under the bed." The miller looked, and, sure enough, found the cake. Now completely convinced of the hide's power, the miller asked, "But does your soothsayer know where the devil is?" The peasant squeezed the hide one last time and declared, "He says the devil is locked in the cupboard." The miller, terrified, unbolted the cupboard, and the parson shot out of it and ran from the house as if the devil himself were after him. The miller, amazed, offered to buy the magical soothsayer hide. The peasant, seeing his chance, demanded a hefty price, 300 thalers. The miller eagerly paid, and the peasant, now a rich man, headed home. When he returned to his village with a bag full of silver, the other peasants were in awe. "Where did you get all that money?" they asked. "I sold my calf's hide in the city for 300 thalers, he replied, enjoying their shock. The villagers, greedy for the same fortune, immediately went home, slaughtered all their cows, skinned them, and rushed to the city to sell the hides for a great price. But when they got there, the tanners offered them only a couple of thalers each. Realizing they'd been tricked, they stormed back to the village, vowing revenge on the little peasant. They dragged him to the river, planning to drown him in a barrel with holes in it. As they were about to roll him in, a shepherd came by with a large flock of sheep. The little peasant, inside the barrel, started shouting, "I will not do it. I will not do it. even if the whole world asks me to. The shepherd, curious, came closer and asked, "What won't you do?" The peasant replied, "The mayor wants to make me the new village mayor, but I refuse." The shepherd, who had always dreamed of being mayor, said, "If only I were in your place." The clever peasant seized the opportunity. "If you really want it, just open the barrel and we can switch places." The shepherd eagerly agreed. He let the peasant out, got into the barrel himself, and the peasant nailed the lid shut. The little peasant then took the shepherd's flock and walked away. A little later, he saw the villagers from a distance as they rolled the barrel into the river. "There goes the new mayor, swimming in the river," they shouted, thinking they were rid of the peasant. As they walked back, they were stunned to see the little peasant, alive and well, driving a flock of sheep. "Where did you come from? Did you drown?" they stammered. "Of course not," he said cheerfully. "I sank to the bottom of the river, and what do you know? There are beautiful meadows down there. I saw so many sheep, I just grabbed this flock and came back up." The villagers' eyes widened with greed. "Are there more?" one asked. "Oh, more than any of us could ever need," the peasant replied with a grin. The villagers, completely fooled, decided they all wanted to fetch sheep from the bottom of the river. They ran to the water and, one by one, jumped in. "I'll go first," shouted the mayor, and he leaped into the water with a great splash. The others followed, and soon the entire village had jumped into the river, chasing an imaginary fortune. And so, the clever little peasant, now the sole heir to the entire village, became a very, very hishy mung. And he probably lived happily ever after. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing tales. See you next time.